in the first half of your cycle, your metabolism is slower, and the second half, it's faster. So that's why in the first half, you'll notice that foods are lighter and you can eat more, of lighter ways. You can do more raw foods. You can have less calories during the first half because you have a slower metabolism. And you can do high intensity interval training in the first half and cardio, which is what, the combination of those two things in the first half is what kicks off more fat loss and more muscle gain.
You're listening to the Almost 30 podcast, hosted by Krista Williams and Lindsay Simsick. Almost 30 started as a conversation about the transition from our 20s to our 30s. But then we realized life is full of transitions. So we expanded our mission.
We are an intuition-led, wellness-focused lifestyle podcast that promises to deliver authentic conversations, diverse points of view, and insights rooted in optimism, growth, and intention. The Almost 30 Nation community is a group of purposeful dreamers who are smart, passionate, and always seeking the full potential in every aspect of their lives.
At Almost 30, we're making magic together. We dream it,
and then we do it.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Almost 30 podcast.
Here we go. Welcome to the podcast, everyone.
Welcome, 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 wherever you are.
Where are you?
Yeah, where are you guys? In the car, at home, cleaning, in the
I want to know
bathtub.
some weird-ass places that you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, actually, let us know. I'm trying to think of my weirdest.
Toilet?
Maybe. I tried to do one time in a bath and I felt violated.
Oh, that's a good point.
I was like, I don't feel right.
What were you listening to? Like
I don't know.
Gary Vee in your
probably,
bathtub?
Yeah, honestly. It was probably something, but it just felt like, I was like, this isn't what this is for.
Totally.
This is not for others' thoughts. This isn't for my thoughts. And so I was like, I had to get up. I was like, oh, gotta turn this off.
I was cleaning my closet the other day and listening to The Daily, and they had a series on Harvey Weinstein. And I was like,
Yeah, that ain't it.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm in a closet.
Who were we talking to? Was this weekend, did someone say that they've met him? I don't need to say the person, but didn't they say they were at a bunch? Oh, they were at a bunch of shoots and he was there.
Yeah.
He was terrible.
Or he wasn't allowed on set on a show that they were working on.
Yes, that
was
and
it.
our ski instructor said that said that Harvey. So we were skiing in Deer Valley, and the ski instructors who were angels said that Harvey and his homies used to come, and that he was such a bully even to the ski instructors.
Yep. To guys.
Yeah, and he was just terrible. Wow, I can't. Yeah, I forgot about that. I think I was fucking around and I said something about him, and they're like, "Yeah, he actually used to come here."
They're like, "Oh yeah, Harvey," and we were just like,
Evil.
"Yeah, that ugly motherfucker."
I know. I was like, "He's disgusting. He's a troll." For many reasons.
Yeah, truly. Anyway, no more airtime for Harvey.
Yeah, honestly.
We're so glad you're here. We'd love to just make a few announcements before we get into it. So excited. We have launched the new Podcast Pro program for anyone who wants to start, grow, and or monetize their dream podcast. We have a comprehensive program for you. And enrollment for the course is closing on Sunday, February 2nd.
Yeah. And with that, if you enroll during this period in time, you get extra calls with Lindsay and I. You get a bunch of goodies included. So the price will change after the 2nd, and you won't get those special calls where you can talk to Lindsay and I, get your questions answered, everything like that. But go to yourpodcastpro.com to check everything out there. We are excited to support you guys in launching, monetizing, and growing the podcast of your dreams.
And we have also announced our retreat in May, and this will be happening at Calamigos Guest Ranch in Malibu. Last year was incredible, and we could not wait to plan our 2020 retreat. So spots are selling out quickly, so we would love to have you. You can find more information on almost30podcast.com. Just click Retreat 2020.
Yep, at the top. And we will be announcing our guests for the retreat. We had amazing people last year like Shan Booty, Milana Snow, Natalia Benson, Jenna Reese. We had a special surprise. We had Tone It Up doing a workout. We had Aubrey Winters doing a workout. There was just a lot of amazing activities for everyone. We had facials. So we're really excited to be sharing this year. So see you guys at the retreat.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. So again, almost30podcast.com. Okay. I'm very inspired by today's guest.
Yeah, I am too.
And I think it's a good thing for us to connect on, and we haven't talked about it in quite some time. And our community always loves to touch base on the hormone conversation. What affects our hormones, how we're feeling physically, mentally, emotionally around this particular part of us that is so important. And maybe some of you don't realize that your hormones could be affecting your sleep, your sex life, your skin, your health in general. So we just wanted to dig into kind of what's going on with us, and maybe the questions that we've been asking ourselves, and things we've been doing before we get into our interview with Alisa Vitti.
Yeah, Lisa, we had her on the podcast maybe a year and a half ago. She wrote WomanCode, and she's just such a pioneer in the space. So when we had her on previously, we were just sort of beginning our conversations with our community on hormone health. We've had Candace Birch on, we had Alisa on, and I actually did a solo episode on my hormone health journey. So if you're interested in hearing that, you can search Almost 30 Podcast and then Krista Williams Hormone Health. And my hormone journey really began when I moved to Los Angeles from New York City. So I lived in New York City for a few years, just ran myself to the ground, was doing quite a bit of damage to my body and to my adrenals. And so when I moved to New York, I just noticed my body was completely out of whack. I felt lethargic in the afternoon. I felt just out of my body. I felt I couldn't sleep at night. Everything was just off. I had put on weight. I just felt terrible. And I knew a lot of it was because of the damaging things I'd been doing to my body as far as it relates to stimulants and diet pills and all these terrible things. But I knew that there was another component to it that I was really missing. So when I started this hormone journey, one of my close friends, Ryan, talked to me about hormone health because she actually works with Your Hormone Balance. So Your Hormone Balance is the company that I got tested for my hormones, and the company that I really went to before I found any other resources on my hormone journey. And they made me aware that I had estrogen dominance, that, I had low testosterone. I had all these things that were really contributing and leading me to feeling like absolute crap in my body. And that started me on a natural hormone healing journey that I went through, over the course of a year, which was really, really a struggle, but really just instrumental in my overall awareness of hormones' impact on my body and just providing me a holistic view of like everything that's going on.
Yeah. And you shared throughout, which I think was so helpful to people in the community, because there are just parts of your general health that is affected by hormones that we don't normally think about. I think like a popular one is skin. So people are like, oh, my skin's freaking out. It must be my hormones or whatnot.
Because it's like hormonal acne.
Exactly.
So it's like that word makes people think that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's no like talk about hormonal low energy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it was really good for me to learn from your process as well, because I think around the same time, I was still working at SoulCycle and teaching 15 classes a week. On top of that, I was like working out way too much and fueling my body. I was eating generally healthy, but I think because I was working out so much, I just took for granted what I was putting in my body and how I was fueling myself. I was also, I feel like I went through periods of restriction, meaning like I didn't not eat. It was more about like, I can't have that, meaning like rice and good complex carbs that maybe my body needed at certain times of my cycle. So I just really had zero awareness. And so when I started cycle syncing my workouts, which actually wasn't until probably a year and a half ago, it made such a difference. And it honestly had the biggest effect on my happiness, because I think I spent a lot of energy beating myself up for either, being too tired for a workout or going to a workout and being in my luteal phase and not having the energy to work out, hit workout berries or whatever the fuck I was doing, and just being kind of low because I wasn't able to give my all. And now I think it's just the permission too, to really understand the different times of the month that I have the most energy. The first 2 weeks, after I have my period is when I have the most energy and I feel it. And I just feel so connected to myself. You know what I mean? And I'm able to schedule workouts that are a little bit more intense. And then second half is more yoga and walking and rest. And my body has just responded really well. And I also I don't know, it feels like I'm being nicer to myself,
Yeah. I mean, to see your transition from SoulCycle and doing additional workouts and all of that to now is totally different.
Totally.
It's completely different.
And it's funny how the body reacts because I was really nervous about quitting SoulCycle in terms of how much I was working out and how much cardio I was doing. Was I going to gain weight? I didn't know what was going to happen. And my body finally relaxed and was not stressed out. And so it actually got to a place, and I don't weigh myself. I don't do any of that, but I just know by like being in my body where I'm like, oh, this feels really good, and it doesn't fluctuate as much. It just I don't know. It just feels more settled and peaceful rather than like always doing.
Yeah. It's like a lot of that's inflammation too,
Yes.
from doing all of that and like the stress of the restriction. But yeah, since I don't necessarily, I'm just trying to track my cycle more, but mine was more like the healing in addition to yours. Mine was more like the healing of my adrenals in conjunction with the hormones.
Totally.
And a lot of what I did with that was like increasing the amount of fat in my diet. I was really protein focused. I think I kind of grew up where it was like a protein, low carb, high protein. And so it was increasing my fat. It was like super nourishing for me, changing my workouts too.
Totally.
I would do like berries in the morning and then SoulCycle, whatever. I would do these really intense workouts just like you were doing. And that was like not it for me. Not it all the time. That wasn't it. So decreasing that, increasing walking. And then there were some supplements that I took as well. And I know Alisa has some great supplements with her company that were also really helpful. So it was a combination of that. And really it's just time. Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things like it really took like a year, maybe more to like really figure it out and really just understand. Like now I kind of know within my body just where I'm at hormonally based on how I'm feeling, based on my mood, based on like what's going on. So it feels good to like have learned that about my body, even though it was like really hard.
And both Krista and I were on synthetic birth control for quite some time. So, and listen, if it works for you, it works for you. And we just decided at different times, but to go off of synthetic birth control. I guess for me, I just felt, I was like, why am I taking this? I wasn't with anyone in terms of like, preventing pregnancy, but, I felt like I could be more careful, one, by using protection, also by just, tracking my cycle to see like when, I could have sex and not risk that, have high risk for pregnancy. So I just felt like it was the best decision for me. And my skin did freak out. Like I did have kind of like the body was adjusting, but overall, I just feel so much better to be off of synthetic birth control.
Yeah. I think I got off mine when I was like 25. I was like 25. I think I was living in Chicago, I remember. And then I was moving to New York. So it was actually when Justin and I started dating long distance. And I just remember I didn't know it as much when it was happening, but when I got off of it, I felt like a different person.
Really?
Felt like I was like, oh, this is who I am. It felt so much better just about my moods. Like, I don't know. I just felt way better in my body and I felt way more aware of what was going on rather than like a victim to like circumstance related to like my hormones.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that was like key too. And I know that a lot of the conversations we've had around this, you can find in this episode and in other episodes about birth control, about cycle syncing, about aligning your workouts to your cycle, about the importance of hormones. And we also, even in earlier episodes on hormone health, have general information about like what each hormone is, what it does, and its importance in the body. So we have all the information that you will need. And we are so excited to have Alisa on.
Yeah, she has a new book out. It's called In the Flow. It's actually out today, January 20th, 2020. So you can get it anywhere books are sold. In the Flow, a 28-day plan working with your monthly cycle to do more and stress less. So you can improve your productivity, happiness, physical well-being by keeping your natural cycles in mind and working with them rather than ignoring them. I think we grow up, and I don't know about you all out there, but it's something that you don't really want to recognize as something that could be really beautiful to be aware of and learn about, because you're like, oh, I bleed every month. This is annoying. I have cramps. I feel terrible. But you could feel better. And it's really empowering.
Yeah, it's almost like, I felt like when I read it, it's like a biohack guide.
Yes.
So it's really like biohacking your cycle to improve creativity, performance, avoiding burnout, all of these things. And it's like a 4-week guide. So starting at the beginning of, the cycle after your period, it provides like meal plans, charts, a planner, just everything that you need to even get off birth control as well. And so I really loved reading this book. I felt like it was one of those for me actually that I just could leaf through at certain times and just get the information that I needed.
Yeah, totally. So excited to have Alisa on as always. She's just really fun to chat with. Like she's very conversational and it's very relatable. And she's also very open about her own hormonal journey and how she incorporates cycle syncing into her marriage, into her role as a mom. So any of you out there, wherever you are.
Even in work with her creativity.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And it's like giving yourself the permission, but it also gives you insight so that you don't beat yourself up.
I know. Girls rock.
Girls rock, man.
Girls rock. Guys have long cycles. Let us bleed. We have short cycles. It is crazy too. And this is just a period at the end of our sentence, but a lot of the research that is done in the nutrition space, in the medical space, in the health space is just specific to men. And so this is really going and speaking to that and providing information that is specific to women and the fact that we have this cycle that affects every area of our body and life.
Remind me, what is the men's cycle again?
I think
I forget. Is it a daily cycle?
Actually,
I think
my
it's
God,
daily.
I think it might be actually.
Because they get boners in the morning?
Yes, totally. That's it.
And their something goes down at night. They're
Men have a hormone cycle too, but there's a big difference. Instead of having a month-long hormone cycle like women, men go through an entire hormone cycle every 24 hours.
Damn.
They also have, right? They also have 10 times more testosterone than women. Actually, you would think that they would be more emotional because it's quicker.
Exactly.
That's kind of weird.
Maybe it happens within an hour time that
I know.
we don't see them or something.
I know. That's what I'm like. I want to try and explore that.
That's really interesting. Okay. Let's do a study.
Wow.
Sponsored by Almost 30.
I know. Let's do it.
All right, y'all. Enjoy this episode. We're so excited. If you love it and want to share with your friends, share on Instagram, text it to them, join our secret Facebook group. We have over 15,000 women in there chatting all day, every day about anything and everything to support you, make you laugh, inspire you. It's really just a way to connect and feel less alone. Again, her new book, Alisa Vitti's new book, In the Flow, is out now. So I would order it. It's one of those that you can have on your bedside table, and it's just really empowering. Again, it's that biohack type book that you can start incorporating things into your life right away.
Yeah. And then join the secret Facebook group. We talk about stuff like this all the time. You can search Secret Almost 30 Podcast Facebook group, and all the girls in there are so kind and loving and open. And, we talk a lot about hormone health and our bodies and all of that. So we are waiting for you in there.
All right. Enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side.
See you soon.
Bye. So I recently shared comrade socks on my Instagram stories, and I had a few friends who messaged me and were like, what is this all about? I'm skeptical. I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, I'm going to send you some comrade socks and you tell me what's going on. So I did. And they came back to me and they were like, whoa, I feel amazing. These actually work. How? I was like, I know. You actually feel better, improve circulation, boost energy. What they didn't know is that the hardest place for your body to circulate blood is down to your feet and back up to your heart. Circulation becomes even harder when you sit or stand all day, which causes tired, achy, or swollen legs and feet. It's also worsened by the hormonal shifts during pregnancy, which can cause painful swelling and spider veins. So compression socks have been so helpful to really circulate freshly oxygenated blood and prevent circulatory conditions like varicose veins. It's a really effortless way to feel better. And they're also really cute. So I cannot recommend enough. compression socks from Comrade. ComradeSocks.com/almost30. You'll get 20% off your first order. Use the code almost30 at checkout. So that's Comrade, COMRAD socks.com/almost30. And then at checkout, use the code almost30 for 20% off your first order. New year, new bra, am I right? Look in your bra drawer. I know, you need a new one, right? It's that time of year. I just ordered mine on thirdlove.com/almost30. Third Love does bras differently. They believe that every woman deserves to feel comfortable and confident every single day. Listen to this. They have over 80 bra sizes. They've designed with measurements from millions of women. So their bras are truly designed to fit you. There is your size there. So trust that. And what's awesome is that every bra is backed by their perfect fit promise. 60 days to wash it and wear it. If you don't love it, returns are free. Hands down, the most comfortable bra that I've ever owned. The straps that won't slip and tagless labels, no itching, no nothing like that. They're super lightweight, super thin memory foam cups if you get them ones with memory foam. I just love it so much. My favorite one right now is the 24/7 Pima Cotton Plunge Bra. It's kind of sexy, but super simple. You can wear it with anything, especially deep V's. Hello. And I also really love the 24/7 Classic Contour Plunge Bra. I have that in nude and my boyfriend really likes it. But if you'd like to try Third Love, you can go to thirdlove.com/almost30 and you will get 15% off your first order. So that's thirdlove.com/almost30 now to find your perfect fitting bra and get 15% off your first order today. I don't know if you feel this way when you leave New York and then come back, but it is kind of a test because there are just so many unexpected things about navigating in the city in general. Like, say, like someone rolls through a puddle and you get all wet. It's like, it is the test always of non-reaction and really just kind of...
It's very stimulating here.
Yeah.
It is very stimulating here.
I don't miss that. I really loved it here, but I really am realizing how much people go through being here.
Yep.
You know, it gives you it affords you the most beautiful gifts of diversity, culture, just immersion in this beautiful like microcosm of all these people. But there is so much against you from a health perspective that I don't miss battling against. Because this is where my hormone journey really started, you know, for me with adrenal fatigue and really just setting myself back from a hormone perspective for a few years, being here, just going hard, never resting, never sleeping, not eating enough fat, doing the high intensity workouts all the time, ignoring my body in such a way. So it's like a great reminder. And this is like full circle to have you here.
Yeah, I was just going to say I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to really put this information out into the world, because I think so many of us are feeling like, you know, just doing all the time. And we're not where we want to be, whether that be with our health, whether that be with our career, relationships, whatever it is. And yet we know on a certain level, like we can't do any more. We can't work any harder. We are doing all the things we know to do, but we're not where we want to be. And, you know, when I was going through that myself, I mean, this has happened on several occasions. I was over 60 pounds and I wanted to lose that weight and I was doing all the right things and it wasn't coming off. And it's so frustrating. And then, you know, when I wanted to have my business be something, I mean, I've been in business for myself now almost 20 years.
Wow.
To do that in a way that's sustainable. At first, I was not. At first, I was just like pushing all the time, all the events, and it wasn't sustainable.
Are you talking about us? I'm like, yes, tell me more about me.
We're on the edge.
We're on the edge.
Yeah, right. It's just like, that's not I learned the hard way that that's not the way. And luckily, I happened to be immersed in my research trying to figure out like, well, you know, how do I just take care of myself? But then as I was diving deeper into sort of the effects of our hormones on just absolutely every system of the body. And I think that was the biggest aha that I hadn't ever been presented with, was that, you know, we tend to put our reproductive hormones in this, like in the box, like, okay, it just has to do with my period or fertility. but actually it affects your immune system and your brain function and, your metabolism and absolutely everything about your body. And in this book, I kind of map out these different systems and how actually these fluctuating hormones affect them so that we know definitively that we've got to take our hormones out of the box and really interact with them in a different way. But anyway, so we're all so busy. I was just doing everything the wrong way, pushing. And that's just not the way, So really what I learned is that the cycle syncing method is the way for us to get more done and have it be effortless, right? So that we're not struggling so much. We're not pushing all the time, but we're making those, major moves into the health that we want to have, the sustainability in our careers that we want to have, the relationships that we want to have. And for me, even it was a delightful, I need another word for surprise, but like a really nice, experience of starting my motherhood journey, having this knowledge about sort of the cycle and allowing that to inform how I even go through motherhood. It's been much less about trying to be the perfect mom and really about just staying present to what's going on with my body.
It's a beautiful thing that's happening, especially I think you're such a huge player in this and creating this conversation because for so long, like talking about your period, talking about your hormones was kind of like, we don't talk about that. And I think that adds to the disconnection from our bodies, like on a very real level. And so I just think it's pretty incredible now that women feel empowered to allow it to be something that informs everything that they do so that they can show up as their best selves. I'd love to for those of you out there that have not heard our first episode with you, but I'd love to kind of just outline the hormones that we should be thinking about, talking about, because people hear estrogen and testosterone and don't really know. They think testosterone men have and estrogen women have, but
yeah. So we have, all the hormones that men have, we just have them in different concentrations, right? And we have them in different concentrations and ratios to each other in predictable phases throughout the month. So one of the things that I sort of am introducing to the world in this book is the concept of the infradian clock. So we are really familiar with our circadian rhythm, right? And how important it is for us to take care of that. Like people are wearing blue light blocking glasses and trying to wake up with the sunrise and the whole thing. And one of the things that I think is, again, just based on the research that I put into the book, that's so important is that we have to take care of our infradian clock as well, right? So we know that if we mess with if we interrupt our circadian rhythm, right? We burning the candle at both ends, we're not getting enough sleep, we're sleeping through the morning, we can start to feel ill effects pretty quickly. And in fact, 2 years ago, 2 geneticists won the Nobel Prize for discovering the genetic effects of disruptions to the circadian clock. I am really feeling like women need to appreciate that if they interrupt their infradian clock, they're having the same intensity of ill effects. Now, of course, there isn't any research being done on the genetic level, but we do know what happens when you mess with your hormones, right? When you disrupt your endocrine function. So those hormones that you were curious about, right? Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, follicular stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone. These are hormones that we go through in these 4 phases. So for example, in the follicular phase, which is the phase that starts right after your bleed ends, this is when, you have just low levels of estrogen and then you have some follicular stimulating hormone moving, right? In the ovulation phase, which we're all pretty familiar with, this is when we have a huge surge in estrogen, follicular stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone. And then in the luteal phase, which is the longest phase of the cycle, that's when we have both estrogen and progesterone rise and fall. So if you don't conceive, right? If you conceive, it just continues to rise. But if you don't conceive, those hormones start to decrease in concentration. And then during the bleed, they're at their lowest level. This predictable, repeated pattern is what stimulates the ovary to mature egg, release egg, build corpus luteum to make progesterone, but also build lining of the uterus, thicken it, hold it in place, and then cause it to shed, right? That's the physical activity that is the result of those hormones doing that pattern. But it also impacts your metabolism, your immune system. For example, some women report that they notice that they feel like if they're going to get a cold, it happens before their period. And it has to do with estrogen, and estrogen's an immunomodulator. So knowing these things can help you, right? If it's cold and flu season, and it's the week before your period and everybody in the office is coughing all over you, you would know to change your self-care routine just for that period of time to bolster your immune system because it's a little bit suppressed, right? So things like that, it's like the ultimate biohacking, very tailored to you in your reproductive years. And I think that's important because, as I say in the book, there's wellness everywhere, right? I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. There's more websites, more articles, more everything. And from the standpoint of what we do at Flow Living, we're a modern menstrual healthcare company. We have more people, more women with more hormonal health issues now than ever before. So when I look at that, it's not because we are lacking, the content around, which vegetables are healthy, which supplements are great for you. We all know now we should be eating healthy and working out and resting, right? The problem is that research on which types of diets are ideal, which types of exercises are optimal for you to get fit, that research is being done on men and postmenopausal women, but it is being marketed to you in articles as universally applicable. So here you are, like I said before, doing everything you know to do, because what you know to do is work out, high intensity interval training every day. That's the gold standard. Do intermittent fasting and keto, right? And where is that getting women in their reproductive years? Actually, it's making them sick, stressed, fat, and unhappy in their lives. And there's research, that I go into in the book that shows why that's happening in terms of a hormonal perspective. But I think it's so important for us to know because we're in this new wellness conversation around biohacking, but it is being like biohacking, if anything, needs to become very bio-individual, right? You can't hack your own biology unless it's unique to you. And for women, if we just take peel one layer of that onion back, we should have different forms of biohacking for men and women because we have different needs and we have different realities. Like men have a 24-hour hormonal pattern. We have an infradian clock. It's 28 days. And that clock turns on at puberty and shuts off at menopause. And while it's active, you need to take care of it. Otherwise, it's going to really impact everything about your body. So I'm so excited to share this because I know how you're all good students like me, right? Like you want to get the gold star, right? So you're like going to the gym, you're eating your kale salads, you're taking the powders, you're doing all the right things. And yet your skin's still breaking out. You can't lose those 10 pounds. You're feeling really stressed and anxious. You're having difficulty sleeping. You feel overwhelmed and unfulfilled at work. Your relationships, over 50% of women in heterosexual relationships are not having the type of sexual pleasure they want to have. They're not having orgasms. So you're not getting off in your relationships. Motherhood is stressful. We're not, and then instead of thinking, oh, I'm just not going about this in the right way, right? Because I'm not working with my cycle. We internalize our confusion as self-criticism.
Yeah, of course.
We think, oh, something must be wrong with me that I can't accomplish all these things. I'm not doing
it enough. It's not enough.
I'm not pushing hard enough. But we know I can feel it in the conversation I'm having with everybody. We know that we can't possibly be doing more than we're doing. We're all maxed out. We're all out of bandwidth. So it isn't that you need to do more. It's that you need to know what to do and when to do it. And then everything just starts to flow.
As far as the timing, so I am curious about the difference between men and women in our cycles. So theirs is 24. Do they mimic the same sort of cycle on a smaller scale in 24 hours?
So, I mean, it's not the same at all, but they do wake up with a surge of testosterone. Okay. They make their testosterone overnight. And then, so they have all their testosterone in the morning, which is why men are interested in like sex and fitness in the morning, because that's actually optimal for their bodies. And then as testosterone and cortisol, like, you know, it starts off kind of at a surge, and then they kind of have a little dip, a little more of a surge, and then it starts to wane after lunch. So by 3 o'clock, their testosterone and their cortisol is really starting to get down to their sort of mid-low point. And then by 8 o'clock, you know, they're kind of can be out of both, right? In terms of their lowest levels. And that's for a reason. They're supposed to go to sleep early, make all their testosterone for the next day. So they actually work really well with early to bed, early to rise. And front loading all of their activities, physical, social, whatever, earlier in the day, which is why in the biohacking community for men, there's a lot of conversation around extending energy, extending brain focus and concentration in the afternoon, because that's when they have their challenge, so to speak, right? It's totally fine that they may not want to be, you know, researching, you know, a book for 3 hours in the afternoon, but let's say they needed to do that, they could really be well assisted by certain hacks, taking, you know, certain herbs that are going to help them with concentration, using coffee, things like that.
Yeah.
But women have a different cycle. We do have a 24-hour circadian rhythm, just like every human being, but we also have that intersecting with our infradian clock during our reproductive years.
Do men have an infradian clock?
Not in this, no, because the infradian clock refers to the cycle that is longer than a day.
Right.
So this is our 28-day cycle.
Right.
So it's really about the hormones that we're producing over the course of the month and how that interacts with our 24-hour cycle.
Right.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about that clock and what does it look like when women ignore that completely, besides feeling overwhelmed, maybe the weight. I know there was a lot of descriptions of ways in which women can feel or ways they can see that expressed in their life. I want to go into that so that women can find ways that they identify.
So, you know, it could show up as any PMS symptom you're having. That's like the first place I would look, right? Is just say, do you have PMS? PMS is a great meta set of symptoms that just are indicative that you're working against your reproductive clock, right? And your body is not able to be optimizing its hormonal output because PMS is the imbalance between estrogen and progesterone, and that's what causes symptoms. And why do we get there? Well, you could be working out the wrong way the first half of the cycle, or during the luteal phase, you could be not eating the right way during that time. So it's just a great first line of, you know, I might actually be disrupting my endocrine function, because that's really what we're talking about. If you don't work with these phases, it's that lifestyle choice is endocrine disruptive. You know, it's not just a nice to have, like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we could all align with our hormonal patterns and optimize our lives? This is a need to have. This is really the only way for you to be your healthiest self, to do all that you want to do, to be your most creative self, to feel happy and feel your best. You have to factor this in. The fact that we've been ignoring it all of these years is at the crux of why we don't have what we want with our health, with our lives and relationships. And I think that it's just such a profound shift to think about, oh, I have to like live in my own biochemical reality. I can't try to squeeze myself into one that doesn't work for me. So PMS is a first one. I think if you're getting chronic colds, you know, that's another one, because it's an indication that, you know, stress levels and cortisol levels are off, and that's affecting the, you know, immune system throughout the cycle. I think if you're having, you know, stubborn weight, that's another indication, again, that these hormones are not working the way that they should. I think
PCOS.
So PCOS, so any of your diagnosed conditions, that is like an added layer of complexity. So that is, yes, you're already, no one is working, like when no one's being taught, you know, from a young age. You know, now I have 4 nieces and a daughter. So you can bet that Auntie Flo over here is going to tell them about all sorts of things as they come of age. Specifically, like the first conversation that I would have with a girl around 9 to 11 would be, listen, You have, listen, here's the deal.
She's like, I like ponies. You're like, listen up. Listen up. We need to talk about this biohacking.
I was going to say, listen, pretty soon, this second magical clock in your body is going to wake up. It's going to turn on and it's going to give you this amazing, dynamic, like creative power. And it's going to be, you're going to feel and want to do different things, and you need to take care of yourself in different ways throughout the month. And that's all I would say. I wouldn't even go into the whole period thing just then, but I would just get them clued into the fact that they've been feeling like the same way every day, and pretty soon they're going to start to feel different. Can you imagine if that was the setup that you had been given at 9, 10, or 11?
Wow.
The whole trajectory of how you would have related to yourself as you were changing would have been one of embracing it, as opposed to what we do from the beginning, which is why it's important to, we fight it. We try to ignore it. We try to shove it in the closet. We try to make sure that we're not thinking about it. We joke about it. We belittle it. We devalue it. We don't even know the power that we have.
Ooh, I'm going to give you a little inside peek into a part of my nightly routine that I am just loving lately. So I've been using Minerals Sosa oil before I go to bed. This is an intensive cannabinoid-rich hydrating body treatment oil for like dry, inflamed skin. It's super cooling and hydrating and refreshing. It smells of like blood orange and lavender. It's great post-shower. And I just feel like a queen when I put it on, to be honest. I also really love Maison, which is their other product. This is a salve. This is really good for sore muscles and reviving damaged skin. So those two are my absolute favorite, but Mineral Health is incredible because they are uncompromising in the way that they use the whole plant of the hemp plant to sustainably extract, grow, formulate high quality hemp oil for maximum balance of mind and body. And so we really trust this brand. What's really awesome is that their products never touch ethanol, which they believe is crucial to delivering a clean and energetically positive product. And you can feel it in the formulations. If you'd like to try Mineral, you can go to mineralhealth.co and use the code almost30 for 15% off. That's mineralhealth.co. Almost 30 is the code for 15% off. So excited to introduce you to a tea brand that I'm loving. I'm drinking tea at night, and it's just made my nighttime routine that much better. It's one of Oprah's favorite things of 2019, Vadam teas. And what I love about Vadam is that their revolutionary supply chain and innovative technology helps them in making available garden fresh, premium quality teas to consumers across the world in the shortest time possible. A lot of brands, their teas are sitting in unregulated warehouses because there's a lot of retailers, middlemen, all these things, and they've cut out the middlemen. And so they are fetching better prices for the farmers, empowering them in the long run and getting us the best quality tea. Some of my favorites are the Tumeric Matcha Elixir. I really love the Recover Elixir. And all of these elixirs are caffeine free and have the superfood turmeric with just so many health benefits ranging from blood purification, improves digestion, treats diabetes, prevents inflammation, controls blood pressure, lowers cholesterol. I mean, come on, people. If you'd like to try Vadam Teas, check it out, vadamteas.com. That's VAHDAMTEAS.com. Use the code almost30 at checkout for 20% off the entire catalog. So that's vadamteas.com. Use the code almost30 for 20% off the entire catalog.
You know, when I think of these 4 phases, I actually, in my mind, I use a little acronym of my power phases, POWR. In the follicular phase, you're preparing, right? You're preparing, you're thinking about things, you're planning, you're preparing. In the ovulation phase, you're opening up. You're socializing, you're communicating, you're opening up. In the luteal phase, you are working, getting things done, making it happen. And in the menstrual phase, you're resting, recovering, restoring, evaluating, right? This is your power. Your power is to cycle through that continuously month over month so that you can apply that thinking in absolutely every area of your life and have everything just work easier. And if you had known that as a little girl, when it was happening to you, you would have been like, oh my God. You would have been excited about each phase change and trying to learn about it and trying to understand and make the connections between your own mind and your body. Like, oh, this week I do feel different. And that's a good thing. And these are the things I'm going to do. And I would love to see, a generation of girls growing up with just this information, which is why I wrote this book, at the jump. If you knew this at the beginning, you wouldn't be like as many as I got, completely lost in the, male hormonal construct, trying to fit myself into this idea that somehow being dynamic and changing was a problem and I needed to be static. I needed to be the same every day. The energy that you put into trying to be the same every day is draining your life force. And it's not helping you.
Yeah. You mentioned creativity, and I love that acronym, the POWER acronym. So can you kind of give an example just so we can connect it more? Because I think, more so now I'm really connecting that part of my body to my creativity. Even like in the class we did this morning, like when I would put my hand over that part of my body, it's like, it's
the womb
just
space.
Yeah, the womb space, like not my vagina.
Your pelvic basin.
But I just, there was a lot there. And same with, sex. And there's just so much there. So I'd love to just give examples, maybe from your own experience, how you've been able to connect more deeply to your creativity.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can come at this conversation with creativity in a couple different directions, like where you're sourcing that sort of conversation from maybe tantric practices where we look at, the different chakra systems of the body and the pelvic cavity and, bringing that energy up from the sacral chakra up through your, the rest of your body. And that's a really cool way to look at it. I think for me, that I was always this sort of like type A science nerd, it was really hard for me to like go there. It felt really like woo-woo for me at first. And I also felt very disconnected from it. I felt like, I don't know what that feels like. What am I trying to feel? I felt very much growing up very disconnected from my feminine energy. And then with my PCOS, I was actually like physically the mind-body connection between my brain and my ovaries was not functionally working. So I was disconnected. And I think a lot of us are. And how do we know that we're disconnected? It's like when somebody asks you get into your, like do a hip circle or get into your body, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm in my body. So how do I get more in my body? Like, it's just
You're like, I mean, right now?
Like right now?
Do you want me to do it right now?
Like it sounds like really nice, but then when you go to do it, you're like, what am I supposed to do? And I'm just real talk. That's how I used to think. I'm like, okay, I want to do that. I want to get in my body. I want to be in, but I don't know what you mean. I don't know how to do that. So for me, and why I think this cycle syncing method is so powerful is that it is a way for you to viscerally heal that disconnect from your feminine energy by doing things each and every day that are, it's not like you want to only connect to your sacral chakra, in yoga class. You want to be connected to your feminine energy all the time. And not just your feminine, your masculine too. You want to have a balance between these energetics, which I talk about in this book. And how do you achieve that? You do that through being engaged with this cyclical energy of your body, right? Because, for example, you could look at it this way. The first half of your cycle, the follicular and the ovulatory phase, more outwardly focused, right? More, being out and about. You could think of that as more of your masculine energy. The second half of your cycle is more inwardly focused. You could think of that as your more feminine energy at a very high level, right? Where we say being out is masculine and being in is feminine. That's one slice. There's so many ways to think about it, right? There's a way to think about how your masculine energy is the part of you that's doing things on your own. And your feminine energy is a part of you that really likes to, be with other people. You can think of it in different ways. It's really about going through the experience week over week of engaging these different energies, this different creative cycle, so that you can heal this sort of core wound that we have as women in this patriarchal environment that says you have to be the same and that you have to disconnect from this shifting, changing energy that you have. Because the other thing when you look at the cycle and you sort of map these power phases is that they map exactly onto like the creative cycle in nature, right? If you think of, it's such a silly but very apropos example, right? If you think of a seed, right? A seed gets planted and then it sprouts and then it needs like watering and sunlight and, nutrients, and it grows and then it bears fruit and then you harvest it and then like you rest the soil so that it can do that again. Everything in nature goes through that process. So if you want to bring things to fruition in your life, following this process is not just a good idea, it's the way life works. And we should feel so confident to tap into this power cycle of our own, not only because nature imbued us with this infradian clock, but also because it works. It works. It makes everything easier. Why push against that process? It takes so much more energy to do that. And then you don't get the results you want. You can, again, let's think of that plant. If you try to force a plant to grow, you have to expend tremendous amount of energy, fertilizers, all sorts of weird grow lamps and stuff. And then you might not get a fruit that tastes really good. It'll be there. It's not really that delicious. And so you can force things to happen because we all know we have done that, but it's not as satisfying and fulfilling and sustainable, right? You can do it once or twice, but you can't do that every day of your life.
That's a good one. For the people that do want to use this process to biohack their system and sync more naturally, what would be the first step? Because I think about, for me, I'm fairly regular with my cycle now, which is nice. But what would I mark the day after my last period and then start from there? Or what would people exactly do to find their way to get into the process of doing this?
So the first thing that you do when you want to get in the flow is just, where are you in your cycle? You can use the MyFlow app to sort of like understand where you are in the process. But, if you're bleeding, you can start there. Wherever you don't have to wait. Start today. Start right now. Wherever you are in the cycle is a great time for you to just start aligning with the activities that help you optimize for that phase. And then it's a process. I sort of break it into two parts. The first part is like self-care related. So what are you eating? How are you exercising? And how are you organizing your schedule? And then once you get that down, that's like the place to start. Once you get those basics down, then you can take it into like your relationships with outside, people and things, like your career. If you're an entrepreneur, how you run your company, like I do, relationships, your sex life. I always say my husband could probably teach half of this class because we have been cycle syncing our relationship for a long time, which is why my skin looks so good, probably. Yes. And then motherhood, right? I'm really excited about being able to offer a new conversation around motherhood that is like, let's just drop being perfect and let's show our children what it looks like to be connected to our bodies and our feelings so that they can know how to do that. Whether they're boys or girls, they need to know how to do that. That emotional EQ actually is something that you'll strengthen by using the cycle syncing method. So know where you are in your cycle and then look at the charts in the book and just pick like 3 foods from the chart for that phase. You don't have to eat them all. You don't have to exclude other foods. That's the other thing about this. It's not a diet. It's not a like you can get it right or wrong. All you have to do is just add more of what is optimal for each phase, and your body will start to thrive more and more, and you will start to learn how much of each of those supportive items you need. I think that's one way you could start with food. Another place you can start is just with the fitness. Right? So let's say you're in your luteal phase and you had planned to go to a boot camp class or a really intense spin class. Just change that to a Pilates class or do like a home mat workout, right? Just switch it up and just notice how much better you feel at the end of that class versus how you feel during your luteal phase when you do an intense workout, high intensity interval workout. And you feel like you're dragging and you wish the class was over. And we haven't even like gotten into the exciting science around the weight loss piece. But I mean, in the first half of your cycle, your metabolism is slower and the second half it's faster. So that's why in the first half, you'll notice that foods are lighter and you can eat more, of lighter ways. You can do more raw foods. You can have less calories during the first half because you have a slower metabolism. And you can do high intensity interval training in the first half and cardio, which is what, the combination of those two things in the first half is what kicks off more fat loss and more muscle gain. In the second half of your cycle, your metabolism speeds up, you need more calories, and you need to work out less. If you do high intensity interval training in the second half of your cycle, you turn on muscle wasting and fat storage. So you have to change the food and the fitness piece for sure, even if you're not ready to think about, how am I going to, change the way that I'm acting at work or whatever. You have to change the food and the fitness piece because this is just how your body is working metabolically, and it makes everything better. In fact, the US soccer team was asked, why are their soccer stars so talented? And they shared that they do their training, in the cycle syncing way.
Wow.
So if it's good enough for those girls,
when they're like trying out for the team, they're like, where are you at right now? Because we're all luteal, so we need you to be luteal with us. So
yeah, we don't all have to be in the same phase at the same time, and that's an important thing. Like, when I teach this in corporate settings, I go into corporations and I train women on cycle syncing in the office and how to do that within the team. In fact, it's a huge bonus not to be in the same phase. Like, so when I run, I run my company. It's a lot of ladies work for Flow Living. It's a women-run business. We may or may not discuss where we are in the phase, but in the cycle. But what we do is we are self-aware. And so, for example, let's say we're having a strategy meeting and I'm in my follicular phase. Well, it's going to be super fun for me to plan a bazillion things and ideas and let's do XYZ 1 through 50. And let's say my social media director is in her ovulation phase. She's going to be like, great, I can blast that all over social. But let's say my marketing director is in her menstrual phase and she'll say something like in the meeting, hey, Alisa, remember last quarter when we planned so many things and then we couldn't do them all and we didn't feel really good about that? Why don't we pick the top 3 priorities? And let's say the operations director is in her luteal phase. She'd be like, yeah, in fact, we can get these things done with this budget. It just works out so well that we're all in different phases because we're bringing different aspects of the creative process together in a harmonious way. So we get more done more efficiently with less stress, with better return on our investment. We use our resources more wisely as a company. It's awesome.
Type A, you love that. You're like, yes. For the girls that aren't regular, what would they do to be able to harness these tools and everything that you listed in here if they're not regular?
So that is such an important question. And I would add to that, what if you're on the pill? So this book is kind of like a book plus a book interstitial. So there's a whole middle section.
I don't know what that means.
It's like
look it up.
Yeah. Book interstitial.
So there's 2 chapters that are sort of special inside the middle of the book that are these biohacking special chapters that are about, well, what if your period's irregular? What if you have PCOS? What if you have, what if you're breastfeeding? What if you're on the pill? What do you do? Because these are the questions over the past, few years as I've been teaching this since the MyFlow app came out. And thank you to everyone who's made that the top paid period app on iTunes. It's because of your passion for this subject that I wrote this book. Really, all of you who have been downloading the app and who have been cycle syncing, if you look at hashtag cycle syncing, it's really something that's just been growing over the years. So I wanted to make sure that we answered all the questions that I commonly get from women who have these irregular issues. But the long story short is I give all the sort of protocols of what to do and how to deal with where you might be with your period, where you are in your life cycle, if you're having children, if you're postpartum, and then of course what to do if you're on the pill. And let me just say a little special thing about that, which is if you're on the pill, can you use the cycle syncing method? And the answer is you can, but the reality is you are having none of the phase changes. And I just want to say that so that we're clear. while you're on the pill, you're having 0 phase changes. And it's important for you to know that, because when you're on synthetic birth control, whatever version of that it is, whether it's oral birth control or an inserted ring or a device, an IUD, things like that, because you will get this breakthrough bleed, because we're not given any of this education, women often think, well, I'm still having my period. I'm on the pill, but I'm still having my period. That's not a period. In fact, the original version of the pill did not have those 5 days of a placebo pill. And so women would stop, right, having their bleeds altogether. And it was so controversial for women that they chose to modify the original sort of protocol so that women would have this 5 days of some spotting or breakthrough bleed so that they would just feel like they were still having a period, but they're not at all. And that's important to know, because you're not getting access to all the amazing neurochemical shifts and creative shifts. I mean, all the real physical positive impact that your cycle brings. You're not getting any access to that. It's being shut off. And I think that if we knew that the thing that really drives us dynamically to be in this alignment with sort of like this creative matrix of nature was being, taken away during the 4 decades that you only get to have it, I think a lot of women might reconsider. And in fact,
the patriarchy, baby, keeping us down.
I don't know. I don't know. Possibly.
Let us say it. You don't have to say it. You can just nod.
Honestly, give me a wink.
Well, I mean, listen, if you were seeking to oppress half the population based on gender, messing with their hormones would be an interesting way to go about it. I don't think it was planned that way, but it's certainly, it's not making women healthier or feel good. Women who take birth control have greater tendencies for depression. There's all sorts of things that then you're on a whole medication track. And I remember working, one of the earliest clients that I worked with, she had been on birth control for years. She was in a job she just did not like, felt no passion for. She was in a relationship that wasn't working for her. And she just she was on the pill and an antidepressant because of the pill. And she just felt really foggy and lost. And she wanted to try to get off these medications. So we worked on that with her doctors and changed her diet and got her into the cycle syncing methodology. And one day she emailed me and just said, I'm no longer in the city and thank you so much. And it's been transformative. And she shared her story. And I was like, what happened? And she said, ever since I've gotten my cycle back and really learned how to access all this, she moved herself to LA, to Hollywood. She wrote this screenplay. She got it some sort of TV deal. She found the love of her life. She quit her job in the city. This was one of my first clients, I would say, in the second year of my practice. And I was like, okay. I knew that this was something that was possible, but then I saw this happen within the matter of 6 months. And I was like, this whole woman's life is completely different because she reactivated this power that she has inside of her. And now she's, loving everything about her life. So that's what's at stake for us, is to really, it's not just feeling better, living smarter, although that's worthy as it is. It's if you deserve to have the life of your dreams, and the way for you to get there, the way out into the life of your dreams is in your body, through your body. And I think that that's just so important for us to know.
Yeah. It is a way to access your higher self, to feel that connected. It's woo woo, but I do think it is a very integral part of that. I do want to talk about sex, and I want to talk about sex in a few different ways, just in terms of why it's so good for, our own system as females, and at different stages of the cycle, what that looks like and how we can communicate with our partners and start that conversation. Because I think once it's open, you're always the example I think of with your husband, where it's a lot
of people tell me they think about me
course, right?
while they're having sex. Not about me in particular. You come to mind when we're trying to figure out what to do.
Cool.
And I'm honestly, it's really cute.
It's like a digital threesome. You're okay.
Well, not exactly that intimate, but that I'm on your mind is nice. Certainly women having regular orgasm is hugely hormonally beneficial and health beneficial. Every time you are in orgasmic plateau, which is different from climax, and just to remind you, which I broke that down in my first book, WomanCode, but just as a quick recap, climax is like when the 8,000 nerve endings on your clitoris are like, I'm done, thank you, that was really good, I have now maxed out on pleasure, and you get that sort of like the sneeze at the end of the achu, right? The orgasmic plateau is the part before that. And if we think of climax as the 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, orgasmic plateau is like anywhere from a 2 to an 8, right? You want to stay between a 4 and an 8. I would say for at least 20 minutes to get these kinds of benefits, because what happens when you stay in that orgasmic plateau is you build nitric oxide and oxytocin, and these hormones have hugely endocrine supportive aspects, right? So you're going to boost your immune system. You're going to regulate ovulation. You're going to boost collagen production in your skin. It goes on and on. It flushes cortisol. It balances mood. It is just and I would say too, it helps. And I don't know if any of you experience this after you have like a really nice session where you have good quality time in the orgasmic plateau, and then you have a satisfactory climax, more than satisfactory, I'm hoping, that you feel like you're reset. Your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous systems are like reset. And that's really healing, right? Because that's why we do meditation. That's why we do yoga. That's why we go on retreats, is because we need to, decompress from the intensity of this high-paced, fast-paced life that we're in. Orgasm for women is like a free, quick, only positive way for you to help your body deal with all of the stress impacts of life. So that's hugely beneficial, but it's also hugely troubling that so many women are not having any of this experience, right? I was shocked at the statistic. If women in heterosexual relationships are mostly not having this experience, that coupled with not knowing how to optimize their pleasure response in the different cycle phases is a big problem, right? So we don't know that we're supposed to stay in orgasmic plateau, and then we have no idea how we're supposed to change our sexual approach in each phase to optimize our orgasm and our well-being. And this is good just for you. Of course, knowing this is important for you, and that's my priority, then of course you can take this into your relationship, which just makes everything, again, more effortless, more pleasurable. That is the whole point. That's why we call the book In the Flow. Like, my experience is I ask myself important questions during the day, like, am I in the flow or am I out of the flow, right? Is this serving me to be more in my flow, or is this taking me away from that? And just keeping that thought going, it really helps. And with relationships, it's like, okay, so he wants to go out to dinner with friends, and I'm in my second half of my luteal phase. And if I say yes, I'm going to be cranky. We're going to have a discussion later about it that's not going to be pleasant. And it's going to just take energy from me. It's going to take me out of the flow in myself and in our relationship. Why would I do that? It's not logical, right? So knowing what I need socially at that time, and of course now he knows, he wouldn't even suggest such a silly thing. He'd be like, "Oh, can I roast you a chicken? Can I? What should we watch on Netflix? No. Things like that." He knows kind of when to do the right things, and of course we built this into the MyFlow app, so he doesn't have to remember this. He gets the partner sync emails like everybody else, so he knows which phase I'm in and what to do.
Love that shit. Genius.
And which foreplay to
have you seen Justin up for it?
No.
They love it, by the way. In fact, when we beta tested the app, before we launched it in 2017, a lot of women were really concerned about, I don't know if I should put my boyfriend or my husband on this. All the women in same-sex relationships are like, oh yeah, she of course wants to do this. But the women were like, I don't know if my boyfriend can handle it. He might think it's gross or weird. And I was like, well, in order for you to be part of the beta launch, you have to, that's part of the thing. Yeah. We need to test that it's working and that, So they did it reluctantly. And then seriously, a month later, I would get a flood of emails from husbands and boyfriends being like, you just saved our relationship. I've been wanting this information my whole life. I knew it was out there, because men know viscerally that they have a pattern. Because by the way, they're always working with their male flow. They're always in their flow. They've organized the entire world, the corporate America, the way we just, everything is all organized around what works really well for their optimal hormonal well-being. They're like, why aren't you ladies doing this, right? We want to interface with that information.
I've been getting some questions recently on the glasses I've been wearing. I've shown it on Instagram and just in person under artificial light and when I'm on my computer. And the answer in one fell swoop to tell you all is Blue Blocks. They are our go-to brand. We recently had the founder, Andy Mant, on the podcast. It was incredibly informative, so check that out. But Blue Blocks was created because they were unhappy with the quality and lack of science behind leading blue light blocking glass brands. Other companies were mass producing unevidence-backed products in China with no understanding about how light actually impacts health. So they created 3 specific lenses for daytime, nighttime, and for color therapy. And their products are made under optics laboratory conditions in Australia and come in prescription, non-prescription, and readers. They ship all over the world. I really love my blue light lenses. These are blue light clear lens in a blue light filtering lens for during the day, ideal for people who, work under artificial light, and targets the frequencies of light that cause migraines, headaches, macular degeneration, and digital eye strain. So if that sounds like you, please look into getting blue light lens. They also have a sleep lens, summer glow lens, and my favorite, the Remedy sleep mask, which just helps me to get super deep sleep. It blocks out all of the light, 100% of the light, proven to increase that REM sleep and deep sleep. Visit blueblocks.com/almost30 and use the code almost30 for 15% off. That's BLUBLOX.com/almost30 to get 15% off when you use the code almost30. So I know at the top of 2020, you're probably setting goals for your career, maybe for your relationship. And if you're interested in maybe trying to have kids one day, what about your fertility and timeline for having kids? We kind of have to think about that and know more about our bodies in order to plan. And we don't really learn this in sex ed. And so Modern Fertility, company that we found, and we actually had Afton on the podcast, one of the founders, and it's an easy and affordable way to test your fertility hormones at home with a simple finger prick. You mail it with a prepaid label and you'll get your personalized results within 10 days. And traditional testing with your doctor can cost up to $1,000, but Modern Fertility only costs $159 to get the same information. And if you go to modernfertility.com/almost30, you can get $20 off. And if you have an HSA or FSA, you can use those dollars on Modern Fertility as well. And you'll get insight into how many eggs you have, hormone levels, and any reproductive red flags. The results go in depth into what every hormone means. And you can also talk one-on-one with a fertility nurse to review your results and options for next steps. So if you want to have kids today or maybe one day, you need information to make the right decisions that are best for you. So right now, Modern Fertility is offering our listeners $20 off the test when you go to modernfertility.com/almost30. That means your test will cost $139 instead of the hundreds or thousands it could cost at a doctor's office. Get $20 off your test when you go to modernfertility.com/almost30.
So, back to you and just like your own sexual response. Here's some key things to know. You have 2 wet phases and 2 dry phases, which means there's nothing wrong with your sex drive, your sexual response, or your libido if you find that half of the month you don't get lubricated very quickly or easily. That is just because you're in a dry phase. It happens to everyone. It is normal, healthy, and you just need lube. And trying to go without the lube is going to cause friction, right? Physically and sort of, symbolically, right? It's not going to feel good. It's a nice metaphor for this whole concept. Why would you not work with what's happening in your body? It only makes things harder and less pleasant, right? So the cycle syncing method is like lube for your life, really. I hadn't thought about that before, but it's very true. So, this idea is you would use lube, and then you could achieve the orgasmic plateau stage more readily, and then move into climax without any problem.
That's 1 and 3. Sorry, which phases?
So actually it's it's the follicular phase and the bleeding phase.
Okay.
So that's important to know. And then the ovulatory phase and the luteal phase are wet phases. So you don't need lube, but you need different amounts of foreplay in each of these phases. That's another thing to know. So you need to know like when you're wet, when you're dry, and then also like how much foreplay and intensity can you handle, right? So during ovulation, you may need less foreplay and you could sustain more intense partnered activities, right? That could also be extended into the first half of the luteal phase. In the second half of the luteal phase, you may not feel as interested in more intense, you might more, gentle, whatever it is for you. And then in the follicular phase, you're going to need a lot of foreplay because it's a dry phase. So you want to set the expectation for you and your partner that that's what you need. And that's so important and I think exciting for relationships, especially men-women relationships, because of pornography has really shifted cultural expectations within relationships that you're supposed to be wet, ready, and like just receiving, penetration at the drop of a hat. When in fact, you need plenty of time to achieve tumescence, which is the female form of an erection, right? Where the tissues engorge with blood and the clitoris and all of that and the labia. You need time for that, right? And we don't see it because it's not as external. We know that men need time to reach an erection. Sometimes men need longer or less, or more or less, depending on where they are in their day, right? In the morning, they need no help. In the evening, they might need assistance, right? We don't question that, but we just completely don't even think that we deserve it because we don't have this information. And that's what I mean. We're just working against what nature wants for us. So these are some things to know. And there's so much more in this sex chapter of the book. But it's exciting to biohack your sex life and your relationship so that it just works better. You're getting off the way that you want on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm. Guys are like, I understand it if there's the word biohack in it. They're like, what information can we read to like understand? I really loved it in the sex part, how you talked about supplements or nutrients that can really help with orgasm and help with your libido. So I'd love to talk about a few of those.
Which were your favorite?
I liked magnesium because I'm a huge magnesium fan.
I think, the micronutrients that help the endocrine system perform are pretty consistent. We're talking about magnesium, we're talking about omega-3s, we're talking about B vitamins, vitamin D3. These are, of course, all the micronutrients that we put in the balance formulation at Flow Living, because your endocrine system needs all of these things to do its job. I think it's interesting. You can use things like watermelon and asparagus to help boost levels of, nitric oxide production in the body. And that's pretty exciting. So you can actually, let's say, if here's a real life example of how you could use this information. Let's say you were trying to conceive and you got an update from your basal body temperature tracker that you are ovulating later in the evening. And it's not optimal time for your man because he's at the end of the day. His testosterone is low. His energy is low. He might have had a stressful day at work. You could there's a recipe in this book about, a little salad that's going to help boost his nitric oxide production, which is going to help him perform and make the baby deposit that you need at the time of day that you need it, right? So it's just really powerful information to have. Like, how can we just help our bodies do the things that we would like to do with them in a way that doesn't drain their energy, but is always adding to our energy bank account, And that's the other thing too, I think, that's one of the biggest, if I would say, what is the biggest gift that being in the flow has given me? It's probably twofold, maybe threefold, but I'll just start with these two. The first is that it gives me, three. It gives me the confidence to know what to do, when to do it, so that I don't have to anymore seek information outside, like, oh, am I doing this right? Am I living the right way? Is this the way to optimize my life? I know, because I'm basing that on my body's natural cycles, what is the right thing for me. So I have a lot of confidence and clarity in making decisions and moving forward with things in my life without worrying about like getting approval from outside. The second thing is that it really helps me feel like I'm, sort of just building energy always, instead of like, constantly feeling like, oh my gosh, there's just so much to do and so many different things I want to create in my life. And oh, I'm working out or I'm trying to do whatever. Instead of constantly feeling drained, I am energized. You guys know, because we've been friends for a while. I've been caffeine free for 20 years, sugar free for 20 years. People look at me and they're like,
true icon.
Aside from my gray hair, because I just haven't bothered to ever color my hair, but I'm thinking about it. Aside from that, like I have the energy of someone who is, numerically younger than me, right?
Yeah.
And that is because I'm using the cycle syncing method, and I have been for like so long that I'm constantly adding energy every day because I'm asking that big question. Am I in the flow or am I out of the flow? And if I'm anytime out of the flow, I make sure I double up on the things that I know are important for that cycle phase and just boost my nourishment, right? And then the third and final thing that it does for me is that it has really, it's given me a lot of freedom, to just do what I feel like doing, what I want to do, what feels good. It gives me this like freedom and permission to just be doing the things that work for me. And I think that we as women deserve to feel that way, to give ourselves the permission to do what it is that we want in our lives, and to have all the support of our inner dialogue and our bodies to get us to where we want to go.
Yeah. I was just thinking that like cycle syncing, if you're committed to it, it helps to get the ego out of the way. Cause like if you kind of waver on it, like my ego would be like, say in the 4th week, like right before I start my period, you should probably go to do like a hard work, just cause like I'm a little bit tired. I feel like kind of sluggish, but even though I feel that way, I equate it to being like lazy, and I'm like, no, we got to get up and do. Right. So it kind of gets that thought out of the way.
I wouldn't even, that you could call it ego, but really that's the patriarchal conditioning. And that's what I mean. That's why
that better.
The practice of this is so healing to that wound, because what you've just beautifully highlighted for all of us, because we all share this problem, this wound, is that you believe that you're only as valuable as what you're doing.
Yes.
You're only worth anybody's love if you're doing.
There you go.
That is not true. Just you being you is just like, wonderful.
Totally.
And worthy. And resting is an opportunity for you to reclaim the truth of that. You don't have to do anything for everybody. And nature, your hormonal nature, is trying to remind you of that all the time. Estrogen, for example, it's a social, psychological lubricant, right? When concentrations of estrogen rise in your brain, you're more like interested in serving others. That can look a lot of different ways, but we could also call that in the dysfunctional way, people pleasing. The problem is you try to remain that way the whole month. And then you get into situations in the luteal phase and the menstrual phase where you're like, oh my God, if this person calls me again with talking about this stuff, I can't stand this person, right? You love this person, but in this phase, because you are not honoring what's true for you, which is that you need to, do something for yourself, you start to have resentments, or you start to have inner critical voices like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not good enough. I'm so lazy. I need to push harder. What's wrong with me? I had a woman who told me that she thought for her entire life she was a quitter. She walked around with that thought in her head her whole life. And then she discovered this work. She got herself off the pill. She started the cycle syncing method. And she's like, I'm not a quitter. I'm a creative genius. I just wasn't using these phases. And so I just was starting, and then I didn't know that I had any other, she didn't know how to map it out. And when you start to do that, everything just, you rediscover who you really are. So it's like it's physically healing, but I think for a lot of women, and especially when I've taught this live, there's like a spiritual kind of healing aspect to it. I mean, we go through different phases, and I'm just feeling into this right now. It's like some of us get a little angry, like, how come nobody told us this before? I could have had X amount of years back to be in my own flow, to live my best life. And then there's some sadness about the things that we've lost, the ways that we've been hurting ourselves with, there's an amazing poet, Vanessa Dayu, that I remember hearing her in college, and she had this part of a song, and it was, there's no greater beating of the fine lashing of a woman's tongue upon her own mind. I remember when I heard that the first time, that hit me right between the ovaries. I was like, well, I'm doing that to myself left and right.
Yeah.
And why are we doing that? Fundamentally, and I'm a root cause analysis person. I'm a systems thinker, and I need to know why. Why are we doing this? Why are we all sick and stressed and miserable? We're out of our flow. Why are we so inner critical? Why do we tell ourselves these negative things? Because we are trying to operate as if we don't have this cyclical pattern. And because we don't think about it, the ways in which that's affecting our desires, we judge. We're judging this thing that we don't even know about. The cycle phases, we're judging them as bad and wrong, like your instinct to rest. Or, another person I've spoken with says, I love that you gave us permission on the MyFlow app during the menstrual phase. A form of exercise is napping, right? Or going to
a good nap.
Because actually that flushes cortisol. It's just as effective as working out in the right phase at the right time, right? So it has the same hormonal benefits, but it's the right way for your body at that phase to de-bloat, to de-stress, and to restore your energy, which is what we use fitness for. So it's, I think it's just, we have to drop the judgment and going through it. Like you said, it's getting the ego out of the way and really actively healing without having to go through years of therapy, these wounds and this conditioning that we've received as women in a positive, proactive way.
Yeah.
Yes. And last question from me. I know we talked a little bit about birth control and if someone wants to get off. And I loved in the book the way that you outlined the strategies for them, because there is a lot of fear from the women of our community when we talk a lot about this. They have questions about will they have symptoms if they come off, or what would the process be like? When do they know they're ready, and how can they be supported?
So in the back of the book, we have this mega free resources section. So whatever is going on for you, if you have PCOS, if you're trying to come off the pill, there is a free resource for you in the book. So there's birth control rehab that you'll be able to download and really learn how do you safely transition off? What are the steps? How do you talk to your gynecologist? How do you do this in a way that is safe so that you don't have that rebound effect where your, skin is exploding and you're, feel, because that's a reality. That can happen if you don't take the steps in advance to transition. And the ideal way to do it is to boost your micronutrients. And a lot of women use the balance supplements to do that at Flow Living, and start to change your diet before you come off the pill to the foods that we're talking about in the cycle syncing methodology. Give yourself 2 to 3 cycles doing that. And then when you transition off, you're not going to notice this huge rebound of symptoms.
And last question for me, if someone is transitioning from a female to a male or male to a female, how can they track their hormones so that they can cycle sync and just feel more connected to their body?
This is a great question. And we talk about this in the book too, is that, however you identify gender-wise, you can use this method the way that it works for you. Again, it's not a diet. It's an intuitive way of relating to your body and supporting it the way that your body wants. So for women who are transitioning to male, they may find that in order to feel more connected to their masculine energy and to the 24-hour male cycle, that they may not want to cycle sync, right? They're also maybe taking hormones which, may at some point suspend their menstruation. It depends on what they're doing and how much of that process they're involved in. They may want to use it just to feel healthy, but not to, have it be something that they're connecting to from an identity point of view. Any way that you use that is fine. For men who are transitioning to female, again, you can use as much of this or as little as you want, depending on what feels right for you. And so if you want to feel more connected to the cyclical energy, again, you may not have cyclical hormones, but you can use the moon phases to feel more connected. You can start to plan this way, but you have to play with it. And you guys are trailblazing this whole conversation. The trans community is trailblazing the way that they're wanting to be living. And so I offer this as something that you can experiment with and see how it works best for you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So good. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here.
So,
we love hanging with you.
The new book is In the Flow, Unlock Your Hormonal Advantage and Revolutionize Your Life. Just jam packed. And I'm always inspired by you that you're able to just explain this and give resources in a way that really empower people and excite people to actually implement this in their life. And how can people connect with you?
You can get all the fun gifts for the book if you go to intheflowbook.com/gift. And, check us out there because there's lots of things that we're making sure that makes your life easier to transition to this cycle syncing method. So we want to make sure every woman is joining the revolution.
Great.
It'd be fun to do it as a group with our almost 30 girls.
Totally.
Like have everyone do it.
I love that.
For a few months, like support one another. We could even do it in the Facebook group because this is like one of our favorite topics as like a community. So I'm really excited to share this, and make sure to listen to the previous episode we did. You can find it on iTunes, and then connect in the group.
Yeah.
Excited for you guys to get the book.
Love y'all. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye. Thanks so much, Alisa.
Thank you so much. Really love everything that she does. She's such a friend of the pod. So make sure to grab any of her books. They are incredible.
Yeah, WomanCode and In the Flow are all available now. Great resources. And just to remind you, we have our 2020 retreat coming up in Malibu in May. You can find more information, almost30podcast.com. Click on the Retreat 2020 tab at the top. And then the enrollment for the new Podcast Pro program is closing on February 2nd. So if you are wanting to start, grow, or monetize your dream podcast, we got you. It's a really comprehensive program. We're so proud of it, and we cannot wait to see what you create.
Yeah, cannot wait. Let's do our review of the week.
Review.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of our community and supporting the pod. We really appreciate it. And so do the amazing guests that we bring on and the rest of the community. So when you guys write those reviews, it means a lot.
This one's from Dolly, and she says, "Thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do. You both are trailblazers." Thanks, Dolly. That's really sweet.
Thanks, Dolly. Thanks, sweet one. Me too. You're awesome. Yourpodcastpro.com, almost30podcast.com/retreat if you want to join us. Thank you for being a part of the community. I hope you're having a great day, and I truly mean that.
We love you. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.